All right. Thank you. And welcome for joining me on Talking Shit with Heather. On today's episode, we've got Mr. Luke Harlan, and you guys are in for a treat today. Not that you aren't every episode, but this guy is funny and we're going to learn a lot. And he's got a just amazing way of engaging, right, with the information. So it's not just this droll, dry, info. We're going to be entertained and educated today, which are my two favoriteest things. So yay, Luke. But before we get started, so I am Heather Gray with Discovering Health. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. Yes, it's a mouthful. I work with fast-paced professional men and women who want to destroy their brain fog, their moodiness, and their chronic pain through natural, lifestyle changes. They don't want to, instead of medications and surgery. So in today's talk, well, like I said, we have Luke, but so talking shit, where does that come from? It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek, it's got a twofold explanation. One is that I'm a practitioner and sometimes I do get other practitioners on here and we are literally talking about shit. Coffee enemas, parasites, bacteria, yeast, all that fun stuff. I don't think Luke's going to talk about that today. But the other part of that coin is that shitstorm, right? That what changed in your life, what got you where you are, that you decided one day that you're like, I want to help people free their mind. For me it was, I want to help people out of autoimmune disease and mental health issues, because that was my shitstorm, right? So I find that if we can bring this stuff out of the dark and into the light and talk about it, then we actually have a chance to heal and move through it, right?
Absolutely.
So Mr. Harlan here, Mr. Luke Harlan, is a transformational mindset coach and speaker. He will free you from the myths, misconceptions, and bullshit stories you tell yourself that hold you back from taking control of your life. Without further ado, Luke.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I love the name of this podcast because it's about getting real. And I think that's one of the biggest things in life that hold us back from becoming our best selves, is that we don't have that accountability and ownership factor. We don't look in the mirror and really take stock and account. We hide from it. It's like hiding from your bills, but we know that's just going to get worse and nothing's going to change.
Amen to that. I wish Facebook liked the name of my podcast though, because I'm having a hard time promoting.
Well, just throw up a little Chinese flag. You'll be fine. A little CCR. You'll be good. Anyway, so it's yeah, I mean, that's the one thing, is that getting real with ourselves and really kind of embracing what the real story is versus the one we tell ourselves. And speaking of Facebook, it's like what you tell Facebook. We all know Facebook, you put up the family pictures and everything's great and everything's wonderful. And we all know, if you've ever put, a family pic up there, 5 minutes beforehand, you were strangling the living shit out of your children to get them to smile, promising them ice cream so you could have that annual beach pic or the smiling one or everything. You see the family on the vacation that they just, forwarded with credit cards and they're all cheating on each other. Anyway, it's Facebook in a lot of ways, but not to go down on the negative path, but on the positive, and really kind of getting back into what do you want out of life. I think that's why I'm here and why my message is so powerful right now, because the people that I'm addressing are those people that really are, things are good but not great. They feel they're kind of stuck, that they were meant for something more, meant for something better, and they just don't know how to get there. There's just no clarity around what it is. It's not quantified. Society's kind of telling them to be happy with what they have and they should, just like it. But we have the strong desires as humans to become better, to become more, to want more. And that's really a good thing. That's how we evolve, and we help more people by leveling up with ourselves first. So it's inside out, which makes all the difference in the world. I think you want, some backstory is how I got here. I think that's, of what I do and how I get there. And I think it's probably easiest when you talk about what the heck is a transformational mindset coach. It's really someone that helps empower you to have clearer and cleaner thinking about what you want, why you want it, and then how to get it, and puts in a structural framework so you can go through all those shifts and phases in your mind to get there. And that's kind of like just a quick overview. Now, how did I get here into helping people like that? Woke up one day and my aptitude test was transformational mindset coach? No, because it didn't exist back then. I mean, there are life coaches and there are business coaches and things like that. And I think it's one of those things that if we take you back, a little bit post-birth, because I think that's too much of a backstory, is going to be really that is in business. I was always kind of one of those people who was, entrepreneurship in mindset, and I was going after something bigger and better. But part of that was, with a little bit of delusion. I wasn't coming clean to myself in certain areas. So I'd go after something and I get like 2 steps ahead and I'd fall back a step. And I'd 2 steps ahead and I'd fall back a step. And I never really understood why that was, because I, like a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people seeking solutions, you kind of want the easiest path or the shiny red button. We have that entrepreneurial ADHD, like squirrel, you just, you get distracted because of the shiny object syndrome and things like that. So you're looking for that shortcut, and inevitably there is no shortcut. It's called work, and you got to work on yourself. But when you're not willing to do that, of course, you're just going to invest or buy into whatever the quickest and shortest promised path is. And for a good part of my career, I did that by looking at what's the latest and greatest widget, and I'm going to put all my eggs in that basket. And what I learned over the years, especially when I got into dealing with, let's see, where part of my career here, we'll just go right into when I was doing a lot of strategic marketing consulting, had a digital marketing company, is that I'd go into leadership companies with their CEOs, their teams, and things like that. And in marketing, if you know anything about marketing, there's this 3-pronged approach of mindset, market, and media. It's a 3-legged stool. It's how we approach businesses to find out where incongruent areas are, and we help them create a structure. And what I found each and every time is that half the people would just be like a duck to water and would just take these strategies and run with them and execute and just be amazing. And the other half would seem to be getting in their own ways. They'd just be creating obstacles, creating fears. They'd be holding back, self-sabotage to the nth degree. And it was funny is because, not really funny, well, funny in retrospect, haha.
You're like, look what you're doing, stop.
Yeah, and I looked at it and said, okay, what is the difference between these 2 groups of people? They have the same skills and the same resources, the same tactics, the same strategies. Why are one hitting home runs and one maybe getting singles and doubles? They weren't failing. They were just not as progressing as quickly. And eerily, at the same time, I didn't realize this was paralleling my life as I was assessing this, was the fact that I started noticing that one group over the other had different habits and characteristics and behaviors and disciplines and routines. And so I really, okay, now we got to delve into the kind of psychology and the neurology of it all and the neuropsychology. So I went down that rabbit hole and really tried to understand how your brain works, why it works, what affects it, how your thoughts, all these great things. And I suddenly realized in that investigation, in that research, where my wiring was crossed, where my impediments were, why I was becoming an obstacle in my own way. I knew I kind of was, but I didn't know how or the what or the why of it. And I think that's really the first, and what I call, we have 5 mindset shifts to get you to create your best life in my coaching program. And that first shift is something that I think happens to a lot of us when we start being open and curious and asking, how can we do better? What's going on? When you start to investigate, when you start to say, Heather, can you help me with this? And you start raising your hand and you're open to that feedback because your pain point has hit a certain level where you're ready for a change. You're not just paying yourself lip service. And we call that self-awareness. And the first bit of self-awareness is going from what we call an unconscious incompetent, meaning like, I'm good. You're just not aware that you're in a boiling water at this point, to being a conscious incompetent, when that's really saying, hey, I don't know what I don't know, but I need help. And I raise my hand.
Well, quick question actually for you. What you talked about some of the stuff that was holding you back. Can you give us some examples? Like, can you remember exactly kind of what you were doing at the time to kind of self-sabotage yourself?
Absolutely. The 68 times I started to write a book. The 48 times I said, I want to get in front of crowds and speak, and I think I have a good message and things like that, and never stepped on stage. The time that I said 5 or 6 years ago that I was sitting there, I said, you know what? I'm really kind of tired of the mouse on the wheel, digital marketing, strategic consulting thing. I really think I have more to give. I really want to work on the mindset piece that I'm investigating. I'd really like to create this kind of program. I want to be a speaker. I want to be a coach. I was losing connection with people when I got into all the processes and everything in my life, from coaching kids, on swim teams, to coaching my own kids through soccer and lacrosse. I just realized that I loved coaching. I loved helping people get that aha moments, to transfer the skills, them to take ownership and exceed in whatever their life, mentoring within the companies I've been in. And at the time, I had too much of an ego because I would call myself a consultant. So I'm a business consultant, and then my ex-wife at the time, hence X is probably all plays into a factor, was the fact that she was a teacher. She's like, you know what you are? And I'm like, what? She goes, you're a teacher. And I'm like, ooh, don't say that T word. And then I realized as I started leaving my ego at the door and kind of embracing and taking ownership and accountability of who I am and where my deficiencies were and where I needed to step up, level up, acquire new skills, I really started embracing that kind of teacher coach role, because at the end of the day, I'm just really trying to make other people their best selves. And I know it's kind of cliche and coffee muggish, but at the end of the day, that's all we have is ourselves. And that's the only, kind of locus of control is, how we think, feel, act, decide, and have outcomes with that. And that's when I really started that internal journey. So all those examples of obstacles in my way were the things that I went through. And I let that ego or insecurity, the fear of judgment of what other people were going to think, the fact that maybe I'm not the best, that I'm going to fail at it, or someone's going to look at me and call me out for being, a fraud, like because maybe I didn't have all the knowledge and all
imposter syndrome.
The imposter syndrome. Yeah, exactly. So you have all those feelings, but it's really hard, and it really helped me empathize and meet my clients or my future clients and the people I was communicating with at their level, at where they were in their lives, because I started to relate to it emotionally. I started to relate to it not just, pragmatically or spreadsheet wise and kind of like the intelligence brain. I really could really hone up in my EQ, like really on the radar. Like it's like to be like the Borg or to be a robot and try to disseminate information that way. No one's going to listen to that. That's just going to be, it's going to, be like Charlie Brown's teachers. It's like, wah, 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 wah. You got to be a human first. And I think that's really kind of the blending of my maturity through the process, was really kind of getting into tune to people and relying less on the information, but more on how it actually impacted them, and they could understand it in a language that they could then utilize in their lives.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's what I'm trying to convey here with a lot of these talks too, is because I got so sick of this get rich fast, get successful, 5 tips, this formula bullshit, taking the human out of it and taking the hard work out of it, right? Because I really don't think that there's any freaking shortcuts to this. Like there isn't.
There is. It's a 4-letter word with W and ends with work. It's but that's the thing. But that's, again, we're unfortunately, a lot of things are stacked against us in, kind of societal pressures, in the sense of the extraordinary is always ostracized. People who step out of line they're always, kind of made fun of in a lot of ways. And it's what I call, it's kind of the mirror test, is that when you get nowadays, in social media vernacular, it's haters, people, hating on you, or, your social media posts, when you step out there, when you put yourself out there in the public limelight, and which takes a shitload of courage. For coaches and for consultants and for anybody who has a message out there, who wants to just help and affect one person, they put themselves out there and they're vulnerable, and then the trolls come around and just knock them down. And at first, when I would witness this, it's one of those things where you kind of get angry, and then you feel like you need to defend yourself, and that comes from a very kind of a weak positioning. And what I learned over the years was to actually have more empathy, because when people really they're just projecting their own insecurities, their own regrets, and things like that. Because all you're really doing when you step out in the limelight of yourself and kind of try to define and figure out who you are and do good in the world, is you're just spotlighting their stagnation of something they regret not doing. It highlights part of what they feel they should be doing but aren't. And when it exposes that, they reject it and they get angry, and they're not going to absolve that and take anger for themselves and beat themselves up, or even be self-reflective. They're going to project it on others, because we are unfortunately conditioned into sort of a blame society. And that's really one of the pivot points in my life when I read, there's a great book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership by Jim Detmeyer. And he talks about this concept, and it really changed how I viewed the world and myself. And it's a concept called above the line thinking. And it's really changing the paradigm shift between life happening to you and life happening for you. And when it creates this positive to negative, or what we call in a beautiful state versus a suffering state. And you can't exist in both at the same time. You got to pick one or the other, and you try to stay on the beautiful state, which is the hope and the gratitude and the belief and the abundance. And of course, the other one is going to be the blame, the victimology, the negative, the suffering, the scarcity, all those sort of things. And what I realized is, in this, by choosing that life happenings for us, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be great. Shit's going to come your way. There are going to be obstacles. There can be horrendous situations. But if you look at it and you say, and you look at it pragmatically, say the obstacle, here's an opportunity for me to grow, to become tougher, to become stronger, to develop mental fortitude, to be self-reliant, to install self-discipline. How can I overcome this and not hide from it? How can I become stronger instead of letting it defeat me? And that's, or turning your mess into your message to help other people and pay it forward. Though that's, I take tremendous, like, to me, that is so hopeful and so powerful. When you take ownership of everything happening that is happening for you and not to you, you start becoming a victor of your own life, as opposed to a victim, where everything, you're in that blame triangle, and you're, you know, that drama triangle. Everyone is either a villain or a victim, or the people put on the cape and try to be the hero and rescue people for their own identity and their own ego, which is just it's just a shitstorm of drama that always stays in the suffering state, because it only exists in the suffering state. If there isn't a problem to perseverate on and either choose a side on, one against the other, it only can exist in that world, in the world of happening for you in a positive, beautiful state, and being hope and taking ownership and accountability of how you think and what you project out into the world. That gives you complete autonomy of controlling your life. And it's in that locus of control where I find my passion, I find my commitment to other people, and that's why I named my program Mindset Freedom, because it just gives you take back the ownership of how you think, of how you feel, what your beliefs are, how you decide, act, and then you get a result that's going to be congruent with how you want your life to be, and not just how other people are going to dictate how you think and feel.
Can I get an amen?
Yes.
That was awesome. Can you say the name of that book again slower, please?
Oh, Jim Detmeyer's 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. You know what? Hold on. I'll even do one better. There you go.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm a voracious reader, especially in the personal, development and self-help and psychology and things like that. Just because I'm so curious about it, and I felt so ignorant about so many things, especially our own bodies and brains, which we're supposed to be the driver of it. Like, if you told me, like, where's your liver? I'm like, that went away 20 years ago.
Oh no.
I'd be like, but that's the thing. It's like, think about it. Like, where's your liver? Where's your spleen? What does it do? Like, I would hazard to say, like, 9 out of 10 people have no clue. And I didn't. I felt like, well, that's stupid. Well, fine, I have a doctor, and then things like that. And things go wrong. My body alerts me, and go to the hospital. They tell me what's wrong. But you're up here. What's going on up here? How would we become the driver of this? Our most, our critical asset, and we're not paying attention to how it works. It's like, at least understand the fundamental understanding of how your brain works and why we think we do. And once you understand how it works, it starts giving you some assertive control of, hey, wait a minute, if I understand how it works, maybe I can control how it works. Maybe I can do things. It's just like a car. If you don't know how to drive a car, getting in a car, you're not going to go anywhere. So What do? We learn to drive. We can learn our bodies. We can learn our brains. These are just skills that you can practice. It's not innate. Some people like, they were born with an intuitive XYZ. Short people are born with certain things, a proclivity to advance faster than others.
You said short people. You said sure people. I'm like,
I should really put some more orange juice in my vodka so I can articulate. Which is funny because I don't drink. Anyway.
Me neither.
So yeah, exactly. It's just, that's a whole nother road.
Because of my liver.
Exactly. It left with my kidneys a long time ago, and my self-respect in that video. Anyway, but yes, okay. Thank you for entertaining. Don't forget to tip your bartenders and waitresses and try the veal. But back to
no veal.
Oh, that's right. Vegetarian. You love animals.
No. I love meat. I am a conscious meat eater, but okay. I know too much about the dairy industry and the veal industry.
Oh no, yeah, that is just horrendous. It
is horrendous.
That's like Nike factory workers. Anyway, but anyway, let's move on to, where were we before we get into our comedy routine?
What is a lot of folks have like a niche. What type of people is it that you like to work with, and why? What really gets you fired up about what you do? And kind of just tell us a little bit more mechanics of how you work with folks and what kind of transformations they can see.
Perfect. Yeah. Actually, it's funny because I think it's kind of like writing a book. You got to stick with what you know. And when out in coaching, what happened is I kind of put this platform out there. And what attracted people who were attracted to me because of this, of their feeling stuck, not far enough in their lives. There's this hesitation, they have these fears, all these kind of things are really that 35 to 55-year-old, 60 range, that kind of midlife-ish, because they've lived enough life where they're becoming more self-reflective. They're not just responsive to, just paying the mortgage or having kids or, the busyness of life typically people have in the 25 to 35, discovering themselves. They get to a point where things are somewhat settled and they realize they have that nagging gut feeling starts to creep its head again, and ping at them and say, wait a minute, it's okay. I'm kind of doing the checkbox stuff. Life is the checkbox. I got food, I have shelter, kids or whatever, no kids, dog, there's this kind of checkbox in conventional life. And you think, okay, I got those. I should be okay, but I'm uncomfortable because I have this nagging feeling that there's something else out there for me. And I really want to make a change. I just don't know what it is. And then they start looking for external things. Unfortunately, a lot of people look for other partners, straight from marriage. Some people say, hey, I need to switch my job. Oh, maybe we need to move. Like they're always
need that Ferrari.
I need exactly, or something that they think is going to fill that void. It's like anything else. We look for the external to patch an internal when it doesn't go outside in, it's inside out. If you're not happy with where you are right now, no amount of X is going to make you happier. You got to be content with yourself. Not only content, but you have to, if you have a drive to be more, do more, want more, and escalate, level up, or whatever you want to call it, then it has to start inside and out. And that's really where I start. And the people I help seem to be in that life bracket, if that makes enough sense, and tend somewhat to be more professionals who are actually looking to get ahead. And it's not necessarily in business. It's just they're the ones who are more driven to make a change and effective change in their lives. But that doesn't preclude anyone else. Anyone can have these feelings. We are humans. We have the same brain, neurophysiology. So applying the structure of coaching, it's applicable to everyone because we're living in the same ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the crowd or the people that have been attracted to me because they resonate really well because we have kind of like stories in a lot of ways. And it's been really warmly embraced, which has been kind of proof in the pudding because it really helped me evolve and get clarity and a lot more happiness and a lot more control. A lot of progress, never perfection, as I say, because we're always, moving forward. If you're not moving forward, you're going backwards and stagnating. So how people, I think your next question was how people work with me or how do I work with them? It's really very straightforward. The first thing people do is we just have kind of like that discovery call, that kind of clarifying call to really understand, where I get to understand who you are, some of the obstacles you face or think you face, what's going on, what's your agenda in life, what you're looking for, and just really kind of diagnose that just to see if the program that I coach, that I created through the 5 shifts is going to be applicable to get you where, or if you're ready. A lot of people are excited, but you need to be at 12 o'clock because it comes at 12 o'clock means ready to commit to something that's going to see it through. Because at the end of the day, I'm a coach, and coaching really means empowering you with the right skills and framework and structure for you to do that 4-letter word. It's called work, where you get to work on yourself. And there's nothing more rewarding when you work on yourself and you invest in yourself and you start increasing that belief system and you have your little wins and they become bigger, and it creates that belief cycle and you get more competent in your skill set. And when you're more competent, it breeds confidence. And when you're more confident, you go after bigger and bolder goals. And when you have that clear vision and you go through all this matriculation of these mindset shifts, you start glowing. Really, you just get more powerful in yourself. You own your identity. You choose who you want to be. And that's one of the coolest things ever is like, you get to be the director and script writer of your future life, of who you want to become. Because at the end of the day, what I tell my clients is, they'll say, oh, these are the things I want to achieve. And I really kind of hit them with a reality stick and say, look, everything you want to do, you can't do as you are now. The person you are now, you can't do it. And they get kind of low. And I said, but you can become the person that can achieve those things. And that's the greatest thing. You learn to tie your shoe, you learn to ride a bike, you learn to drive a car, you learn to deal with X, Y, and Z. You can acquire skills, you can make them your own. These are the greatest things, is that we're an evolving, growing creature if you want it to be. If you have a growth mindset, you're open and you're curious and you're ready to put in the time, you can become whoever the hell you want to be, which is so cool. Because everything and anything you've ever wanted to do in life, somebody in some form or fashion has already navigated the minefield and created a path, created a structure, created a course or a mentorship or some sort of A to Z blueprint in some form or fashion that can help guide you through that. And I am that guide within how to set the foundational elements of your mindset so you can then apply that to whatever path you want to go down to. And it's like an honor and a privilege to be able to do that and free you to then you go out and hit all the home runs in your life where you choose to hit that, whether it's family or recreation or business or money, finance or your faith or your community. It doesn't matter, because you'll start showing up to all these things in life as your best self. And unfortunately, if you're not there now, you're coming with an empty cup. You can't pour into other people. And if you're not showing up as your best self, you can't give 100% to whatever you're trying to be focused on. And it's just kind of muted and you're in the gray. And I want you, rainbow bright colors. I just want like life and energy and passion. And you'll have that once you get clear and have that insight of what to do from a practicality standpoint, owning how you think, act, and then execute. So that's really when they come into my program, we want to make sure they're ready and then take them systematically through bite size, not overwhelmed, not feeding you from a fire hose. It starts with a one-on-one coaching weekly. It's very doable. It's not, you're not putting your life on hold. You can do everything else, but it's very specific and it has a very specific outcome of transformation at the end of the 6 weeks.
So you don't take everybody that you get on a call with, right? Because they have to be ready. So you're not just applying every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes through the door. You put them through a process to make sure they're ready, right?
Absolutely. We call it qualifying, which sounds a little arrogant, but it's a reality because not everyone's
qualified.
Well, but here's the thing. There's a lot of times I get excited about stuff, but I'm not ready to commit. It's like saying, oh, the diet starts Monday and 50 Mondays go by. And that means is that, okay, you're curious, you have that pain point, but the pain's not strong enough. You're not kind of rock bottom at some level. You don't need to be, by the way, to get started. You just gotta have the courage to get started. If you want something that's different, because remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you don't start, you're never going to go anywhere, but you already know how the current pain feels or being uncomfortable now. The problem is we get too comfortable being where we are, even if where we are is uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like we just, because we know and we expect the pain, we're too fearful of the unknown, but the unknown is going to be better than where you are. So there's no downside, but we're so convinced of this. We create these illusionary fears in our head about what the next step is. And the next step is always going to be better. It's always going to be better than where you are, because if you don't like where you are, it's really not going to get worse. If you take that first step forward. So there's just, but when people aren't ready, or if they're not open and curious, if they haven't come to that first self-awareness stage, they kind of like the outcome, but they don't like the work to get there.
Right.
Then they're not ready. And I can tell you, I am so guilty of that. I cannot tell you how many courses and books and rah-rah sessions and weekend seminars that I've gone to where the first thing they said in the first chapter, the first module, the first speech was getting your health in order. Like, so your physioneurology, so your brain is clear, you have clarity, you have the right things, coming out of your gut health, the right things in your body, you have the right amount of sleep, you're being hydrated, you have the right amount of motion, you have the right around nutrition, you're doing all the things so you can run as a finely tuned machine, because it affects how we think and the clarity and the perspective and then the energy and the endurance to go attack the world. And my fat 313-pound ass skipped chapter 1, 2, and 3 and went to, how do I make more money? How do I get the right systems? What autoresponder? What CRM do I need? What video course? What widget? Whatever. And I missed the boat. I missed it every single time. And then the minute I took back my health, the minute I said, okay, I'm getting up at 5:30, I'm going to read books. I'm going to invest in my mind. What I put in my body and my mind are going to be top grade. Everything just started to click. It's like being at the beach and listening to the waves, and you have that clarity of moment of, oh my God, I know what I want to do with my life. I have absolute, I can see 1,000 miles away where I want to be. And I held on to that feeling. And I realized by having a healthy body and a healthy mind, which are completely entangled, they're symbiotic in such a way, direct causation, that the one I have it, I can keep that feeling of being at the waves, that clarity, that perspective, what my North Star is, what the focus of what I want to do and how I want to execute it is always that feeling is there. I'm not muting it. I'm not dulling it. I'm not suppressing it with carbs and sugars, with alcohol and other things. I'm not diverting its attention with 7,000 hours of Netflix. I'm not feeding my brain with shit that's just going to have an average life. And
Right.
so once I started doing that, I woke up to the fact that I could have a greater control over my life than I was taught to have or thought I could have. And so
Absolutely.
that's really, kind of full circle of what I love about the aha moments of clarity, ownership for my clients, is to bring them to that point where they realize that they can plant their flag on the tallest mountain themselves. And it's just a great feeling.
Absolutely. I being a female, I think I kind of grew up with that Disney syndrome, that somebody was going to come save me. And it's
Oh yeah.
taken a lot of, mental fortitude to reverse that story. And the only one that's going to save me is me.
But you're not it's not the, I mean, I had, my princess costume on and everything. But I think that's the conditioning we have, is that if you think about it, we live in a permission-based society. You can't go from, junior high to high school without someone giving you a little piece of paper and a pat on the back, or you pass an exam. And you can't do that from high school. If you go to higher education, in higher education to the working world, you can't, you only can get a raise or a promotion as if you jump through enough hoops and someone else above you gives you permission to move forward. So if in this kind of, and it's kind of the ladder climbing, the sequentialness of the ladder climbing, when there's a world out there that you can step out of that and leapfrog to whatever opportunity you want by finding the most direct path of gaining a skill, going after it, gaining experience over here, going after it. You can leapfrog these things. But when you jump out of line, society tries to slap you back in. And that's the thing, is that by saying it, you just put in your time and do your due diligence, you'll get rewarded. And I'm like, what, 65 years in a cubicle to go die in 10 years, 20 years, living off food stamps and, fixed income and getting, 2 weeks of vacation a year. Like, no, F that. Like, no. And it's okay if that's what you want and that what makes you happy. It doesn't make me happy. And I think that the happiness, the independence and the freedom starts in here. And when you choose whatever vocation or pathway you want to do, you got to be okay here first. It's not actually the outside external stuff. But yeah, definitely no one's coming to save you. Zero. They're not supposed to. That's the other thing. There's no entitlement like Knight and White Horse or Hot Chicken and Ferrari. It doesn't matter. Like, no one's coming to get you. Like, but that's why, the government will take care of you. Famous last words. But anyway, I mean, I think people get that, but there is that kind of delusion that is permeated through fairy tales and through the lottery mentality and wishful thinking, because it all precludes, again, work. But again, everybody here, everybody listening has done something that took time, that took effort, that they had to overcome an obstacle of the mind or a physical labor. And what happened at the end of that, at that outcome? How great did you feel that you did it yourself, that you rewarded yourself, that you became capable, become confident? Like, that is the most amazing feeling ever. No one can give you that.
Right.
You have to take that for yourself and you have to earn it. And that's work. And that's like everything in life. It's
Absolutely.
not just a freebie. It's not given to you, nor should it be. The best things in life are on the other side of struggle.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
There's no way around, only through. So Disney story time. Let's get rid of Disney story time. Let's hear a story from you. What is like one of your favorite inspirational, like, get you choked up when you think about it? How did you help somebody? Like, what was your biggest success story?
Oh, that's besides myself, of course.
No, tell that. I mean, yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
No. That's for 315 pounds. Like, congratulations on losing the weight. That's not a small feat.
Yeah, I would say like that was the mindset shift, was the health thing. I get choked up. It's sort of my own story, but it was more a parallel to, I think, a lot of people's. Is just perspective. That aha moment was because let's see, this about 3 years ago, a little before 3 years, about actually 6 years ago, I was at a fundraising event for a friend of mine who had a charity called, I think it's Be My Hero, something like that. And what it does is, he was a leukemia survivor. And he was on death's door, got a bone marrow transplant. Got There Goes My Hair is the name of the organization, and they help people register for a international organization for blood and bone marrow donors. And so I was at this fundraiser and I signed up for it. Didn't think anything about it. 3 years later, I get a call saying, "Hey, do you remember signing up for this?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And it says, "Well, we really need your help. There's a person dying. And we need to fast track you in 30 days to get them the marrow and the stem cells and everything else. Are you still in?" And at this time, I was literally in a crisis point in my life. I was 315 pounds, divorced, 2 kids, just so directionless. I was, putting food on the table and doing well in business because I had a skill set and I could run on that wheel, but everything else in life was just at the lowest levels. I could do the basic discipline of, what I needed to do for the kids, but everything else was just terrible. And I was, so heavy, I was hiding. I wasn't going out to networking events. Like I'd see myself at an event and somebody take a picture and I'd be like, "Hey, who's that fat guy?" I'm like, "That's me." My head was like this big. I really didn't have any confidence, wasn't dating, wasn't doing anything except, I was dating Domino's and, IPAs and, vodka tonics at the time. So, but fast forward, so I get this opportunity and it turned out to be an opportunity to help someone, literally save their lives. And how many people can actually be asked and be able to deliver on that? So it was truly an honor. And I went through this process to be screened and tested and fast tracked. And I just remember sitting in the hospital bed the day of the donation. And here I am, 3 chins, looking like, I should be rolled back in the water by Greenpeace. And it hit me in this just lightning bolt clarity of a moment. And this is where I get emotional. There is a heart under here. There's a guy in Germany who's 57 years old. I found out this later, but I just knew there's this person. You don't get to know the donor or the people and, down the road. There's a person dying in another country who didn't choose to get cancer, who didn't choose to have his entire body irradiated and just vulnerable as hell, living in a bubble room, waiting on my fat ass to donate some stem cells and marrow, right? And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, I chose this. I chose this lifestyle. I put the food in my face. I drank. I did all the things that got me to this point. And it was the biggest clarity of ownership. I own this. And in that moment, I realized I can't live like this. This is not how I'm going to live. I just can't. And I just felt like the biggest ass, but at the same time, the biggest blessing, because this didn't happen out of thin air. This happened for a reason. And I had to take as kind of divine, intervention, inspiration, whatever you want to call it. It was this wake up call in my life that I needed wholeheartedly. It couldn't have come from a friend. It couldn't come from someone I trusted. It had to come from an environment of an occurrence, of an event that would be transformative in my mind. So I sat there and I realized no more. And once a procedure went great, the person ended up still surviving. I found out 57-year-old guy, 3 kids, 6 grandkids, everyone's doing great, the whole 9 yards. So I felt very blessed and fortunate to be able to do that. And it totally changed my life. And I remember once I was released from the hospital and I remember driving the next day, a friend of mine out of the blue, hadn't talked to 6 months, hadn't seen me. I was hiding on social media, so you couldn't see how large I was. He just called me up out of the blue and said, "How are you doing?" And before I could give the bullshit answer, I said, "I'm horrible. I'm just, whatever." He goes, "You know what?" And he owned a gym and he did health and fitness and he had this health program and this nutrition program and these things that he was doing. He said, "Let's just meet for coffee." And so it was just sort of that lining of the ducks. I met with him. He put me on a program. I lost 75 pounds in 4 months. And I just realized that I'd been more of a taker than a giver. And I needed to switch that paradigm. And the more I gave, the better I felt. And I wanted to just create more mechanisms in this life that I could help other people really kind of come to that perspective and make sure that what they're doing in their life was serving others as well as I wanted to serve them. So that's really kind of the transformational story for me. And then it just so happened that my investigation and my study and my passion really leaned in to something that was universally applicable to really frame people's minds so they could make these decisions in their life just to be part of something bigger.
That's beautiful, Luke. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your vulnerability. And speaking of giving, what do you have for our listeners today? Do you have anything coming up or anything that you'd like to give away? A special promotion, free
Uh,
consultations?
Absolutely. What I loved is just if you go onto my website, it's really easy. And I'm sure if there's a show link or something, it's my name, lukeharlan.com. What I have on there is I'm a big proponent in paying value forward. I have everything we kind of touched on today, mindset freedom, the 5 shifts to creating your best life. There's a masterclass. It's a free half-an-hour masterclass, just gets to the point, really understands the foundational principles of what the shifts are and how they could affect you in your life. And if that's something that interests you to talk more about, there's an opportunity just to jump on a free clarity call with me and really kind of go through what you're going through to see if there's a way that I can contribute more value, point you in the right direction, or get involved with any of my courses or coaching. It's just really hands off in a great way, just to have that communication, get to know you, you know to me in my program. But I'm always about value first. And if it's something that resonates, we can take those next steps. And it's really easy. Just go to the website, lukeharlan.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I so appreciated you being here today. You're, like you said, you're a little bit different of a guest that I would typically have, but I felt like you fit in so well. And just like with your own health story, like it is all connected, and we got to
Absolutely.
get everything going and operating on 100 on all cylinders in order to really step out and be the person and make the difference that we're made to do in this world, right? You got to stop playing small. And that means on all fucking areas of your life.
Yeah, that's getting your shit straight and but that's it. I have to say, every time, health is the foundation.
Absolutely.
It's like a car. If you're going to go on a cross country trip, don't put 80 octane in there. And if you have 20 cinder blocks representing excess weight and you're trying to drive the car, what's going to happen to your car? The tires are going to wear out, the struts, everything's going to wear out faster. You're not going to get there. It's not going to perform. It's not, that's the analogy. And the thing is that a car you can replace. You can't replace yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, and so I think people need to really understand that we're given this incredible mechanism of mind and body that works synergistically. And if one is fighting against the other, it's a no-go scenario. I mean, you got to get out of survival mode and start thriving. And the only way to thrive is to take back your health and listen to practitioners and get a good awareness of what's happening with yourself and how to correct it. And what happens is it's just the dominoes start to fall in a positive direction. When you get your health straight, you get more energy. When you get more energy, you get more ambition. You get more ambition, you have more drive. When you have more drive, you focus on what you want and you skill up and level up. And this is where we
get shit done.
Get shit done. And then that's the fun part. There's a trilogy. It's mindset, skill set, and tool set. So get your mind clear, skill up in everything, and then you can go execute on whatever area you want. But it starts, as you know, with 2 things. What do you want and why do you want it? You don't need to know the how. There are plenty of people, Heather, myself, we know the how. You just got to know what you want and why you want it, and then be bold enough and courageous enough to raise your hand and say, hey, I need a little help over here, because there's plenty of people out here willing and capable and just can't wait to help you.
Absolutely. Okay, Luke, do the mic drop. You just dropped the mic on y'all. Awesome. Well, again, thank you again. And we're going to have to do this again sometime because I had a blast with you. And I just feel like you've a wealth of all kinds of information. So we're going to maybe have to do a part 2 with Luke Harlan.
Absolutely. If you'll have me, I'd love to be back. This has been awesome. And thanks. You made me cry. So we got a little laugh, cry. It's the whole works here.
Absolutely. You get everything, some profanity, you get moved, you get entertained, you get educated. I try to be all in one.
I mean, we could do costumes next time. So.
Oh my God, that would be a blast.
So you can have fun. You can have fun, guys. Just a little levity, lighten it up. Humor goes a long way. Just to, so don't take yourself terribly seriously. There's serious things that everyone talks about, but just, if you lighten it up a little bit, you can get through it. We are made to persevere. That's why we're put on this earth. So
absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Luke. You have a great rest of your day.
All right.